2027. The IEBC is yet to pronounce itself and say, okay, guys, open and start to campaign. But that notwithstanding, that's going on anyway. And we see a lot of things happening at the same time. There are very many layers to this, and some dangerous, which we can actually have a conversation around. But Game Plan 2027 already has so many things in the pot, whether we're looking at the tribal innuendo that's being pushed certain quarters, and on both sides, or not just both sides, because then that would mean that there are only two people in the running. On all sides. Wrangles within specific political parties that have seen to be, or rather have been seen to be front runners when it comes to a political contest, whether we see what it means when fuel prices go high, and sometimes we forget that everybody then bears the brunt of, a difficult situation in the country. So Game Plan 2027, when we went into the election in 2022, it was very clear that it was going to be a decision that was made on the economy, and that putting money in the pockets of Kenyans was going to be a priority, and that the person who was going to at least show that they were going to do this is the person who won the votes. How does it look? We'll start with you, Dr. Owilla. How does it look now? Who's the person who then will win the hearts of Kenyans by what they say?
I think it's still very grey in terms of who that person is. Because if you look at the opinion polls, if you look at the sentiments on the ground, then you look at what the political players are doing, there isn't an outright front runner. The latest, I think, had the president leading, but then cumulatively you look at what all the different opposition figures had, it's far much more than what the president has, and if you combine, they pretty much have around 52% of the vote. But that's pretty much, just numbers on paper, which can't tell you who is likely to win. But looking at that data and what politicians have been doing, you can easily tell that the problem is not really the who. The problem is there's something Kenyans are looking for, and it is not clear who is providing that. So from the opposition end, they're giving us a very interesting cliche, Ruto must go. And you ask yourself, is that really what Kenyans are looking for? And it is not, and I don't think they've realized that. So the messaging has to go beyond Ruto must go. And then what makes it even difficult for the opposition is the fact that while they've not figured out what kind of messaging and what they need to give Kenyans, incumbents all over the world, what they normally do is that they ensure that the last few years into an election, all their programs, all their agenda revolves around winning that election. So if you look at the disorganization within the opposition, you look at what the opinion polls are showing, it pretty much tells you that it gives President William Ruto enough time to organize himself. Whether he does that or not is a question that we'll wait and see. But ultimately, he sits in a very precarious position because, one, just like you said, when we were going to vote in 2022, we were looking at the game plan that was going to give us money in our pocket, sort our economy. And I think the promises that he made were extremely concrete. They were real. I mean, there are things that we could easily...
You could imagine them.
Yes, we could imagine them. We could see that, for 60 years we've had this dynastic rule. And it was something that you could actually go back and say, but this is true. It's a clique of rich people who've been ruling this country, and they've taken us nowhere. So we were a lot more optimistic. We thought that things would change radically. And the tragedy for him right now is that it's not like other presidents who promises things that we couldn't touch, gave us nothing, but still left us where we were. We are worse off than we were before, despite those promises. So he has a couple of months to fix that. And you see, the beauty of it is he took us so low that if he uplifts us just a little bit, I think people will see that difference. Now, being in that situation for him gives him an advantage that he's got everything he can work around against an opposition that seems to be shooting in the dark. How successful he's going to be in doing that, I think for me, is not really what he does, but how he manages to convince people, not by telling people what he will do. He manages to convince people between now and the election day that I promised you money in your pocket, and money comes to our pocket. And I think without money coming to our pocket, without people realizing that, you know, the economic difficulties, the cost of life that went high, was pretty much a question of us adjusting. So it goes down, and then he can tell us, I told you it was gonna be painful for some time, but things are now working. If that does not work, I think it will be very, very difficult for him to come with another promise. There has to be something concrete. People must have money in their pockets. People must continue saving like they were saving, because in the last 3 years, I think we started digging into our savings instead of saving more. Yet this is a regime that told us you're going to have money in your pockets.